they immediately respond with, "Bro, where have you been?" Dog
9.
was like, "What do you mean? I've been gone for like 20 minutes." And they're like, "No, you've been gone for like hours." Like,
Dude, trauma bonding is the best bonding, though.
exactly, yes.
It's the greatest. His body was still there.
What do you mean by that? I don't know if chat's gonna be able to hear it, but my throat made a noise and Brent just kind of went. Hey, what is going on, chat? Welcome back to another episode, and if you're wondering why I'm talking at the very beginning of this, well, it's because I have some bad news. As per usual with all these episodes, me and Brent are slaving away night and day to get these done for you and get them uploaded every week on Wednesday at 12 p.m. But it has come to my attention the night before I'm supposed to be uploading this episode on YouTube that I accidentally recorded my camera with a delay on it. And the reason for that was because I usually use a delay on my Twitch streams so that I can sync up all the audio. That's not really super important, but there's really no way that I can fix this issue and have the audio also sound clean enough for it to work as a good episode. So unfortunately, for this week's episode, my camera specifically will not be completely in sync with my words. So I'm sorry about that. I'll hopefully get that fixed in the next episode. But everything else should still be the same. Everything else should be fine. Shouldn't worry about it. And if you're only listening to the audio anyway and not really following along with the video, then you really shouldn't have any issues. And you're probably wanting me to stop talking anyway. So that's all I really wanted to let you know. Sorry about that. We'll have it fixed again next week. But yeah, hope you enjoy this episode. It's a good one. Let's get into it.
What's up, all you movers and shakers out there? And welcome back to another episode of the Woodsmen podcast. The only podcast where not even your mother would love it due to our filthy mouths. We're your hosts, Brent Murphy.
And Joey Rucker.
And man, we are back at it again with another great episode. And let me tell you, it's been a while since I've taken the reins, and it's a topic very near and dear to my heart, as my boy Joey knows.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you just sit back, get a drink, maybe two, crank up the volume, and let's dive into the best episode topic of all, aliens. All right, man. How have you been?
I've been good. I'm extremely tired, and I know I say that every episode, but
this week has been pretty wild,
been so
bro.
brutal. I've worked. I probably shouldn't say how long I've worked, but I've worked probably too long than a person should.
Probably more than the legal limit.
just a little bit, but it's
just
fine.
A little bit,
but it's okay. I don't mind. It's fine.
I'm fine. Everything's okay.
I'm okay. I'm just beaten,
defeated.
I'm just so defeated.
So defeated by life.
Yeah, so I don't really know how to naturally go into this, but I since we're in the housekeeping segment, I kind of had some updates for you.
Well, I mean, I hope chat could see that there's one big update.
Well, oh yeah, if you haven't noticed, hi, we're using an actual camera now. We mentioned it in the last episode. We're using the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K Pro. That is a mouthful. But
I mean, the fact that you were able to remember that, good for you.
Dog, it's my first real camera. There's no way in hell I'm not going to remember it. Yeah.
You need to know the serial number at this point, dude.
I don't know about the serial number, but yeah. We're super excited. Rice.
No
one's going to get that.
No, it's okay.
It's an inside joke.
Yeah,
but yeah. So we have the new camera, and it's kind of and we fixed the humming.
We fixed the humming.
As per usual, every episode we fix a couple things, make it a little better for you. And
now the next episode, all we need to do is add back Tim the Cricket.
Yeah, let's just let Tim do his thing. He started his own podcast. He's doing good.
The Cricket Chronicles.
The Cricket Chronicles. That's great. Yeah.
And all of it is just him talking with other crickets
Can
about
we, like,
living in my garage.
On April 1st, let's upload on the channel.
A Cricket Chronicles video.
It's a Cricket Chronicles video, and it's just the cricket
noises.
Perfect.
I don't know. I think we're sold on this idea already, dude.
Perfect idea.
Come April 1st, just remember, this happened. And
The Cricket Chronicles, I almost said Christmas because it's a movie, but Cricket Chronicles coming to you soon.
With its own thumbnails and its own intro music, and it's just cricket noises.
It's just like, it's the Woodsmen intro, but it's no music, and it's just the cricket noises, and then clink.
But with cricket like legs.
Oh, and it's just like a cricket dude. It's like a cricket head on a person's body, like we did with the wolf and the bear, and it just whoop, whoop.
That is terrifying.
Oh my gosh.
What is it about insects that are just so creepy?
They're awful.
Like,
they're so bad.
Just, it's so off-putting thinking of any insect being as big as a person.
It always reminds me of that Men in Black movie, the first one with the big ass.
Oh, so you mean like the movie about aliens?
Like the movie about aliens. Yes, of course.
Whoa.
But before we get into aliens too much,
we got some more housekeeping.
I still had like a little bit to share with you. We got a new subscriber. I don't know if you noticed.
Nice. Okay.
Another person we know. Another person that we haven't talked to in a long time. Another person that I'm pretty sure we've talked about on the podcast.
Okay.
Joseph Yarber.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
You saw that one?
Yeah. He actually hit me up and he asked me specifically where he could find the podcast.
Dude, yes, that's so cool. Like he reached out on his own?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, he saw it on Facebook. On our Woodsmen podcast.
Hey, the fact that he saw it on Facebook of all things, like I know we share our stories to Facebook with our Instagram posts, but like, hey,
it works.
It works,
guys. The algorithm is there.
We're getting there. We're going up.
Speaking of algorithm, have you noticed that we have gone up in views overall?
Yeah, we've been
lately?
doing pretty good.
Yeah. I think every video is at a steady 25 views.
I think it helps that we're just getting a little bit more rude about telling people to follow. Like, hey.
Come on, guys, for real. You know how long it takes us to do this? I can't believe we're doing this right now.
Exactly.
Technically, you said we're doing this early. Oh, wait, you said that before this take? Because, multiple takes transpired, but...
Oh, yeah.
But you realize... I completely lost my train of thought, so it doesn't even matter.
Okay.
So let's just go on to the next topic.
Next update was a pretty big one.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to do with the podcast.
Okay.
Maybe you know, maybe you don't. But I hope to God you don't know so I can get your genuine reaction.
What do you mean?
Have you heard about Sage?
No.
Together.
No. Oh. Really? That's interesting.
Sage is having a child.
Wow.
Sage is having a kid. Sage is going to be a dad. And I know, I'm sorry, chat. Like I know.
Wow.
For
that's great. Yeah,
you for guys our audience, you don't know who Sage is, but like if some of you have come over from the Pie Master J YouTube channel, you'll know that I've grown up with Brent and I made videos with him for a long time.
But there was one before.
There was one before, and his name was Sage. And we don't really talk to him as much because he moved out to Texas after we graduated high school. Nah. But every now and again, I've talked to him, or we've chatted on TikTok. Not often lately, but like, yeah. And then I heard from my mom. Enough. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I heard that fool finally did it. He's finally gonna have a kid.
Well. Hey, at least they waited until they
I'm happy they didn't like rush into it. Yeah.
And like their living situation, like all finished and finalized before they made a very adult decision.
I hope it works out.
Good for them.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, we haven't talked in a while, but honestly, Sage, genuinely, I hope it works out. I hope you. Yeah. I bet you're going to be a good dad.
I just wonder.
It's got to be better than yours or Brent's dad.
Yeah. Dude, trauma bonding is the best bonding, though.
Exactly, yes.
It's the greatest. I just wonder if Sage is going to be a girl dad or a boy dad.
What do you mean? Like a dad of a boy or a girl? Or do you mean like...
Well, I feel like Sage would be a girl dad.
So,
Like,
but that's
like
what I'm asking.
naturally.
You mean
sorry,
like
sorry.
being?
I mean, him naturally would be a girl dad. I don't know.
You're still not. I don't know. Are we
He would
talking
be
like
good at being a girl. Like,
a
he's a
dad of a
natural
girl?
dad.
Got it. Got it.
But I would wonder what he's going to get and how he's going to handle it if it's not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I don't know what he considers himself. I consider him a girl dad, though.
I think I would consider him a girl dad, but I mean, I don't know. You and him both kind of had bad upbringings with fathers, and so
Yeah.
I kind of see you both being able to raise girls, but we talked about this with you in another episode, but I also kind of see like you could have a son and like kind of make it your life goal to be a better father than your own, you know?
I'm going to train him to be
A warrior.
a machine. He's gonna be one of those like 6-year-olds with abs, like
Yep. Oh my
training
gosh,
every day, dude.
One of those
Nah.
like 3-year-olds who's like doing pull-ups and
It's like
stuff. And you're
actually
like, "Buddy."
terrifying, dude. It's actually terrifying.
Oh my gosh.
I don't care for that.
Yeah, that's kind of all the updates I had,
That's a good update.
but it's a crazy one, right?
I mean, it's way better of an update than I have, which is nothing. So, I mean,
That's fair.
you feel me? I mean, something's better than nothing, and you, by golly, came out with a good one.
I mean,
so.
it's not like it's exactly an update on me. It's just something I
It's
heard.
not even an update anyone else is going to care
No,
about.
no one's
but,
gonna care.
it
But
is-
like for us, it's kind of
it is shocking to me. So,
yeah, it's a crazy thing to happen.
well, I mean, if we don't have any more with housekeeping, I guess it's time to get settled, dive in to possibly the quite terrifyingly real possibility of
Extraterrestrial life. So, since we're talking about aliens, I think we should preface first before we start going into our stories. If you've been following along, you might know, maybe you don't. This isn't our first try at doing an episode about aliens.
this isn't our first time in the arena,
No,
so to speak.
no. We had an episode that we did at the studio at your school, the one that we also recorded episode 5 at, and it wasn't one of our best episodes. I still feel like we do better now, but overall, like we brought to the table some pretty crazy like stories. I barely remember mine. Mine was about like a school in like Ukraine or something. Like I don't even remember.
Bro, I had a great one. It was about that girl in the 70s, I believe, that had the flying saucer come down in her backyard and like three little weird alien guys came out. She gave them meat pies.
Oh,
Remember?
Yeah,
And
dude.
she gave them meat pies and they like got scared from something and they ran off. Yeah.
Mine was just about a bunch of kids who were at recess who all experienced the same thing.
By the way, that's so funny. I know what you're talking about now, and it wasn't from you bringing that up. I actually was watching a documentary and that story.
Oh, on that story?
And that story got brought up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was like, this sounds very familiar. Like where it was on the playground, all the kids saw it, but there was like one kid out of all of them that tried to act like he didn't see it. But all the other kids are like, bro, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
Like this was not some thing we all made up. Like this actually happened.
It's
like,
crazy. And like, yeah, no. So
all the teachers felt all weird about it.
Yeah,
and they
well,
were
all
like,
the
"What
teachers
heck?"
were
Like,
weird because none of them were actually there,
They were
or
only,
they
like-
never experienced it.
They
so-
let them all play outside and they like went inside or something.
Yeah, like the biggest.
Obviously, the school didn't have like the same rules we do here in
No,
California because
no.
that would not have slid.
No, absolutely
Slid?
not.
Flew by.
I think fly is a
Fly.
bit different than slid.
Yeah,
You went from slide to slid to flew.
because I know it's.
Slid.
I was just trying to find a word that works.
Took
man.
off.
Just took off, man. The spaceship took off, dude.
Hey,
I don't
yeah,
know.
you know what? For all I know, but
So
yeah,
flying.
today we kind of have done something similar, but I think we probably both have better stories to tell.
A lot more in depth,
A lot more in depth, and this one
longer stories.
This one I took a lot more time to write about mine. Like the
I didn't
first,
even finish mine, dude.
I didn't finish mine either because there's so much information. But okay.
So if we trail off towards the end of our stories, you guys know why.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just prefacing now, so you can't be disappointed later. You know,
Exactly.
you got to lower expectation, just like you do with your parents if you got bad grades in school.
Just lower their expectations.
You tell them you got an F on the test, but really, You only got a C minus.
Yep.
Pro tip for all the high schoolers watching.
Exactly.
So,
My story is about a man named Chris Bledsoe. I actually don't know the pronunciation of his last name.
Bledsoe.
I
have no idea.
I have no.
It's probably not Italian.
I got all of this information for today's podcast, actually from a different podcast called the Danny Jones podcast. So shout out to Danny Jones. He has a whole bunch of episodes like this where he just interviews people who have gone through crazy stuff.
Yeah, so that was the cool thing as well. You were actually able to find an interview with the person you're going to talk about.
So this guy wrote a book about his experience, and apparently it blew up. Apparently there's a documentary out there about this guy because it got so popular on the news. But a lot of people, which I might get into later, maybe I won't have time for it, but a lot of people kind of thought that he was crazy, obviously, and that they chalked it off to being nothing. But yeah, so this is about Chris Bledsoe, or Bledsoe. I'll call him Bledsoe for the rest of this. One thing I want to note as just a preface, it's not going to have a lot to do in the beginning, but it's important. This guy was struggling for a long time, for years, I think at least like 17 years, with Crohn's disease, which basically is a disease that sort of like swells your internal digestive system and like kind of infects it and stuff like that, and it kind of gives you like...
Okay, so he was going through it.
Yeah, like not a good disease, and apparently
you said he struggled with this for like
17 years.
Most of it, yeah. So like a lot of his life.
Long time, yeah. Okay. Something that he could not get past, and he had to take medication for it, and he even had a scare in 2004 because of a medication issue where he actually almost died because of it.
Oh,
but
okay.
So he's been struggling with this for a long time. So just keep that in the back of your head, right? So
the crazy stuff.
Now we get into the story.
I mean, I'm looking at the first point that you have right here, and I'm just like, whoa.
Let me paint you a picture, right? So pretty much this guy, he had a job where he built houses and structures. He was, I don't know if, what's the...
Construction worker?
But it was like his own thing that he did with his wife. It wasn't like he was part of a company. Like his company was the one that was doing it, right?
So just a small little...
Yeah. And he was doing this for years up until 9/11. And once 9/11 happened, like a lot of people were moving and didn't want to have houses in the region he was building in, and there was a lot of problems.
Okay, so we're looking at early 2000s.
Early 2000s right now.
Oh, dang. So this is like recent.
It's really recent, yeah.
Okay.
And so after that happened, he kind of stopped working for a while, but he was given... You made a face because I don't know if chat's going to be able to hear it, but my throat made a noise, and Brent just kind of went...
It just sounded so frightening.
I'm sorry, I can't help
You're good, man. I can't.
But
I can't help the sounds my body makes.
So he was offered a job. I'm not going to get all of the details right, so I'm just going to say that his dad, like, kind of gave the job to him, like, told him about it. But this was during Christmas, and it was to build a house in, I believe, North Carolina. And it was sort of one of the last jobs he ever did.
Oh.
They had to get...
Okay.
They had to get this job done by Christmas. Like, that was the due date.
Got it.
So they worked on it for about 4 months.
That one with me.
So him and his team did finish it by the due date and decided to celebrate. His team were actually the ones who were like, hey, would you want to like come out? We can go fishing. Like, let's go do a thing. Let's go celebrate that we got the job done. Hang out, right? Sorry, it is kind of hard having to like tell this story, but like I promise you it's gonna pay off.
No, dude, I'm ready.
So he decides to go with them. They celebrate, they go fishing, and at one point, I can't remember if there was a reason, but he decides to kind of go take a walk on his own. He just goes down a path. Like, they had a whole campfire and everything. They were right next to a river. Did I write down the name of the river?
So my man just picked up and left.
Yeah, and this is like at night now. So he decided to go on this walk.
That's even significantly weirder. And if he didn't have a reason, then there's cause for concern.
I don't remember him saying for a specific reason, but this was also his retelling. And I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but everything I learned from this podcast, he actually wrote in a book called UFO of God. And
Oh, that okay.
I think
That's
I'm
what that note is. Okay,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
first note that I read, and I was like,
Oh yeah, sorry.
what?
Yeah, so definitely if you want to get more details on this story and you want to hear anything more, I definitely recommend going to is it Danny Jones? I should
Danny Jones podcast.
Danny Jones podcast,
Yeah.
or please go read the book UFO of God, because I'm telling you the story is going to get wild.
All the info that's being botched right now is accurate in the book. So if you want the accurate info, you should probably read the book.
Yes. So this guy decides to go on a walk, right?
Okay.
And he
in
goes
the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night.
We have to preface that because that right there is like the thing that like bothers me the most.
I will say that I think part of it was that because of his Crohn's disease and stuff like that,
get moving.
Not even that. He was talking a lot on this podcast about how he was doing very unwell mentally. Like he was just life was just obviously kicking him in the ass, and he was just sad all the time, and like it was a rough life to live, you know. And
so it could have been just like as simple as a mental walk.
Yeah, it could have just been one of those ones
clear his head, you know.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
we've had those.
Absolutely, we've had those. So he leaves and he goes down this pathway, which kind of leads up to a hill. At this hill, I wouldn't say, to preface, actually, it wasn't quite nighttime, but it's like dusk. Is it? No, I'm sorry, dawn. Dusk to dawn. Yeah, it was dawn.
Okay.
So like the sun's going down. It's about to be pitch black, but like you can still see everything around you.
Okay, well, I'm significantly less scared than I was, because I was thinking like, if
but that's actually
goes out in the middle of the night, like 9 p.m., that's scary.
But part of the fact that it was only dawn actually is a very important piece to why he went through the first part. When he gets to this hill, he starts walking up it, because I guess there's like a gated area. He was just going to go up. That was sort of his destination, and then he was going to walk back.
Yeah.
As he starts walking up, he sort of sees what he considers to be the sun setting. And so he's just like, he doesn't think anything of it. He's like, it's the sun setting, and he keeps walking. As he gets higher up the hill, I even wrote it. This was about 5:10 in the afternoon. So he didn't think anything of it much, really, but one thing... Why did I write that? Huh. That's why, because this was the World War II thing that you were talking about. It wasn't actually that he was in World War II, but what he was he was a commercial rated pilot, and he studied like that whole job. And so he basically
knew aircraft.
He knew aircraft, he knew air travel, he knew the skies. That was the main thing. So seeing the sun like this, it wasn't that weird.
Like seeing an aircraft or like a UFO, you could not sit there and tell him like, you just saw Venus in the sky. You know, like he knows what he's looking at.
The reason that's important was he immediately realized when something was wrong, which was when he actually saw a second one.
A second sun.
A second sun is how he described it. A second orb of light.
So like Tatooine.
Kind of like that, yeah. Like he saw something big. He said it was about 50 feet tall, and it was huge, bright, but there were two of them. And so now, obviously, immediately he's like,
hold on.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so he basically, as he gets higher up and he realizes that something is wrong, he then decides to hide. He goes into the shrubble. He goes into like the weeds and like offside the path. He turned around and debated running back to his group because of this phenomenon. Like, what do you do when you just see two suns? And also not in the sky. Like the closer he got to them, he realized they're on this path that he is traveling.
It is local. It is not.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So he's like peeking at them through the weeds, and he's trying to get like an idea of what's going on. You got to do something? No,
you're good.
Okay. So as he decides to turn around, and he's debating, like, should I just run back to my team? Should I just like go tell him what's going on? He goes back to face the two suns, as he describes them at the time, again, and there's a third one. A third, seemingly 40-foot tall orb of light has appeared. And so clearly
Oh.
he's freaking out, right? So the next thing
So at this point, is he above them?
he's below. So like I
Okay,
said, this
so
is on a
they're
hill.
still above him.
He's
at this
looking
point.
up at them.
Okay, so theoretically they're at the top of the hill.
Yes.
Oh, that's even more frightening.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me he didn't notice this before? He's walking up this just
was
normal, and he's like, oh.
Well, when he saw
The sun's
one, he was
setting.
like, yeah, the sun's setting. It made sense. It was like 5:10 in the afternoon.
But it was that.
He didn't realize.
That's scary.
It's one of
dude.
those things where your mind plays tricks on you
yeah,
because you're like,
yeah.
oh, well, why would the sun be on the ground?
Yeah.
But
why is it hovering above the mountain?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So next thing he knows, he's running back and he's gotten back to the fire. Like he sees this, whatever it is, and he's like, I'm out. I'm done. This sucks. Whatever this is, I don't understand.
As one should do in this situation. This
is where you're going to start to love the story, because this is where we get to the things that are like,
oh,
things get real, right?
Okay.
He gets back to the fire with his friends. When he gets there, he's like, guys, you will never believe what I just saw. He's about to tell them everything, right? Immediately, his team and his friends, just also for the first part, he also has his son here. He brought his son on the trip.
Okay.
They immediately respond with, bro, where have you been?
Oh, stop, bro.
Dog.
How much missing
Dog
time?
was like, what do you mean? I've been gone for like 20 minutes. And they're like, no, you've been gone for like hours, like anywhere from like 4 to 7 hours. Like he's been gone. And it got to the point,
okay,
and where I'll get into this, because he's been gone for that long, his son was actually, well, all of them did. I guess one guy stayed by the fire to just make sure everything was safe that they left there. 2 guys get into the truck and they start driving after him to try and find where this guy went. And then his son, he decides to go walk out on his own to try and find him by following the path that he remembers his dad going. So
how old is the son? Do you know?
This I do not know in the story. He never claimed an actual age.
From the things
by
you hear,
the end of the story,
does he sound older?
By the end of the story, I start to believe that he's relatively young.
Oh,
I gotta believe he's old enough to like walk out on his own in the dark,
but not 14, not 15, not like high school.
It would have to be like very beginning of high school to maybe probably just middle school. Like that's what my guess would be. But I didn't get an actual answer. So read the book if you want to know the truth. So this is where it kind of was interesting to me, because while his son was gone, and I'll get to this, his son claimed that he saw orbs of light.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry. Yeah, so this was where I thought it was kind of weird, because when he saw the orbs, the son actually ran back to the camp like immediately. He didn't even hesitate like his dad did.
Yeah.
But he goes back to the campfire, tries to tell the group about what he saw, or at least probably the guy who was still there, unless the people in the truck got back by that time too. And they just brush it off. Like, dude, why are you messing with us? Just stop acting like a kid, like whatever. Whatever they're doing. Brushing him off, right? So he goes back in and tries. So the son.
Bro runs back.
I'm sorry. No.
Forest?
I'm trying to make sure I don't get this wrong. What I said was the son ran back to the fire and tried to describe what he saw, but they brushed it off. And he ran back again to try and find. Yeah, so he tried to find his dad again.
So bro runs back into the forest.
Yeah, but like you got to remember, for him, if he is young, he's like worried about his dad being gone for hours. So to him, it's like, whatever that was, I got to push it aside because I got to make sure my dad's okay.
It's just, if he was so young, don't you think someone like there at the camp would have been like, no, like, you know, don't you think it would have tried to stop?
I mean, like it's weird. I don't know. You can't ask.
Because to me, I'm thinking like this is like early 2000s. This isn't, you know, like 70s where people are like, it's fine, go out, have fun.
But this wasn't the 70s. This was.
That's what I mean. It's
Oh,
early
oh, oh.
2000s.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. This is
This,
not
by the
that
way, this
kind
is
of
taking
time.
place in 2007. I don't think I mentioned that.
Oh,
But
that's even later. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
feel like people would have been way more uptight. Like, hey, yo, ain't no way this kid is gonna go out by himself in the forest
see,
now at night.
apparently when he went back into the forest, the kid,
Oh,
and the dad
man.
is now showing up probably around this time back at the camp, but the son is now gone.
Oh, the son is gone, but the dad.
Well, the son goes back into the forest to try and find the dad. The dad shows back up seemingly hours later and realizes that everyone went to look for him, and now his son is gone. Right. So the dad. By the way, they're both named Chris, so I'm just gonna call them Dad and
Chris and Chris
son.
Jr.
That's his name. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. My joke wasn't that funny, I guess, but
So the dad goes back in, finds his son. When he finds his son, he barely even finds him because there are no flashlights, by the way. None of them have flashlights. Now it is dark. And he basically finds the kid hiding, kind of just like the way his dad was. But the son, I'll give you a little hint,
remembers everything.
had a reason to hide.
Oh,
if you
gosh,
thought that
okay.
seeing 3 orbs just sort of hovering there was bad, the son saw detail. The son claims to have seen 2 little beings that were about 3 feet tall. Okay.
Okay.
He sees some stuff. Okay.
Okay.
He also describes them as having red glowing eyes. And when he saw them, paralyzed in fear, couldn't move. That's why he drops to the floor, can't move a muscle until his dad finds him.
Okay.
So now they're both afraid because now they have both talked to each other and they have both experienced something that like you can't make up.
Because it's one thing brushing the kid off. It's another thing the kid telling his dad and the dad realizing,
yeah, exactly.
Something came out of whatever I saw and I've been gone for hours. So, okay. Continue.
The dad basically now takes it upon himself to just get the son back to the fire. Like get back. Everyone has to get back to camp. And he takes them. They both just sort of push aside whatever they saw. They're thinking, well, maybe we just are crazy, whatever. They're trying to make sense of what they can't make sense of.
Yeah.
And so they end up coming back to the camp. And when they get there, they're about to like tell the guys what they saw and like try and talk out like what just happened to them and like the whole passage of time thing. Because by the way, that was another thing he kept saying in the podcast was he couldn't wrap his mind. He couldn't like mentally wrap his mind around the fact that he's been gone for hours. Because to him, it was only 20 minutes. And I know that's like kind of like one of those big horror story kind of vibes. But like when you really think about what that would feel like,
I would love to do an episode solely just on missing time.
Yeah, and like, I would too.
The concept of living in a time, especially in a time that we do now where we have so many things to keep us on track on what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know how scary it would be to drive somewhere? Like, for you. You've driven back and forth from Arizona.
Yep.
You know that drive.
Yeah.
5 hours to 5.5 standard. That's the normal. You already know.
Sure, yeah.
That is it. That is the standard. Now imagine leaving at 9 a.m. in the morning. You're just driving.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing the same route you've always done. Past 4 years of college, you know, all this stuff. You're good. Now imagine getting there and it's 11 p.m.
What
do you do?
But for you, you've only driven the 5 hours. Yeah, see, if that happened to me.
And at that point, you don't even realize that the sun is no longer there.
Yeah, that would be the weirdest part.
That is like what would scare me. Because how do you even rationalize that?
It's that sense of dread where you can't, it doesn't physically make sense. And we've talked about how like you can manifest stuff on this podcast. We've talked about how certain things that aren't believable can be believable. But like rationally, time passing, that is a whole other ball game because it just like
because then you have to ask yourself what caused it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there has to be something physically there to like take you. It's theoretically just something taking you, picking you up, and placing you somewhere else. Like,
yeah,
but you're not even
But you don't feel
aware
it.
of it.
You
You're
don't
not
know.
even aware of it. So like, what happened in between all that time?
Mm-hmm. All right, so back to the story, okay?
All right.
They get back to the camp. They're about to talk to the guys about what happened. Before they can even get into this conversation, one of the other guys says, "What's that in the sky?"
Stop right now, dude. Dog, ain't no way this isn't a movie.
They all look up. Well, the book, I could be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure the book says something about being soon to be major motion film, has that tag on it. So it could be a movie soon.
That would be wild. Okay. So they look up in the
They
sky.
look up in the sky. There are 8 or 9 of the orbs floating in the sky, and they are in a circular pattern. So they are all together making the form of a circle. And according to what Chris states, they all start spinning. They all start like going together in the same motion, making a really fast spinning motion, and they also kind of go in and out like this. Right?
Oh, dude, ain't no way.
Yeah.
What do you even do?
You pray.
How do you?
You pray. That's it.
Like you don't hide. Where are you hiding?
Yeah, because what are you going to do?
Where are you going to go?
And see, well,
Okay.
it gets worse because the final thing that the orbs do is that 3 of them actually landed in front of them about, according to him, 75 yards away across the river. At this point, they dropped everything and they were like, "We're getting out of here. There's no leave the fishing poles."
As a natural
Don't put out the
response,
fire.
I would hope that's
They're
what
like,
they
"This
did.
has been too much. We have all collectively seen this." And according to Chris, he even mentioned that the guys have backed up this story and they have been on Discovery Channel talking about this phenomenon.
So then I have a question for you. At that point, if they had all of the, like, if they were seeing all of those lights,
Mm-hmm.
and then you only see 3 of them land, does that mean all 8 of those lights were one? Like, were there 8 craft?
That's the thing. That's what's kind of hard. And this is going to be like a side note for the end of the story that I didn't write down. But like, just to give you a little tip, after this whole thing transpires, they end up seeing this for the rest of their lives. Chris's family.
Okay, so
Chris's whole family has had experiences with these orbs multiple times and with multiple different ways that they act and behave. So it's really odd. So, moving on, right? They get in the truck. They start driving away frantically. They're trying to figure out where to go. Now, I'm assuming because of how he words this, the only way they could go based on how to get home was in the direction of the hill, the original hill. When they get there, the original 2 orbs that kind of scared the bejesus out of Chris is still there. The third one is in the middle of the road.
Okay.
And
like hovering?
Actually, it's funny you ask, because what he says is that this, whatever it was, is hovering about 5 feet in the air.
I was just about to say, like, what, 3 feet in the air?
Yeah,
or what?
about 5 feet according to Chris.
Oh, like, everything about that, dude. Like, just, like, if you didn't believe in any of that before, you're definitely believing in it then, right? Like, what do you even...
What I found interesting is at this point, Chris makes a weird statement. He says he's not afraid anymore. It's at this moment where he sees the orb in the street. Everyone else in the car is mortified. They are like, "We're going to die. I wish I could tell my family I loved them one last time." But Chris has got this weird sense of like
an overwhelming sense of peace.
Yeah, like just a weird okay, like this is just something that's happening. Like it was
kind of
weird.
like a paranormal apathy. So like I've heard
exactly.
I've heard that like people will go through something very, very unexplainable to them, like whether it be like ghost related or like alien related. I've even heard one of a missing time case where they went through the whole thing and then right after they just went to sleep. They didn't even
Really?
They're like, okay.
See, I just don't know how you would do like
that's
such a weird.
They'll be talking about it as if it's like an interview with them. They're talking about it and they're like, it's weird. Because obviously right now I'm telling the story, I have goosebumps, but they're like, but when it happened, it was just like
just a weird serenity type of like peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
so
like,
weird.
so like in that stance, if that's happening not just with say like an alien case like this one, but it's happening with all these other different weird phenomena always happening around the world, if you believe in any of that kind of stuff, like, well, it has to be connected, right? If you're getting the same,
Yeah, I mean, it
if you're
could
getting a
be.
lot of the same signs, but for all these things that we categorize as like different things, are they different? Or is it all just one big
It's kind of like
unexplainable
how the
thing, you know?
Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Go check out the episode. How we were talking about that, how like if this is really happening and it's happening to that many people, that collective amount of people, then how is it not a thing? Like how is there
Yeah.
not something behind the curtains that we just don't understand?
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
Same
and
concept.
I've heard, and like you said, you got a lot of this info from a podcast. I got quite a bit of info from another podcast. Shout out Astonishing Legends, the only podcast to listen to all these creepy topics. But yeah, no, dude. Forrest has a very interesting saying where, it doesn't take, all the stories being true.
Mm-hmm.
It takes one to be true.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because then that means that there is something indeed going on that does not make sense. Like,
Yep.
okay. So bringing it back to your story.
Yes.
We got a craft in the middle of the road, hovering 5 feet above the road.
Which looks apparently like a 40-foot tall orb of light. Like,
okay, so that was my next question. So there's no defining features.
no, not at this point.
Is it
the only thing he
shaped? Is
the
it
only
oval, or is it just a
it's
ball of
interesting
light?
you ask. The way he described it, when it would hover closer to the ground, it would sort of make like how he described it was like a raindrop, how it would go down and then as it would get closer to the ground, it would sort of kind of
Oh, that's
oval
weird.
out like an egg. That's how he just like described it when it would get closer to the ground.
So almost like it's literally not here.
Kind of,
Like
yeah.
it's not in our dimensional space.
Sorta,
Like,
yeah.
That there's almost like a hologram. Like it's like something holographically.
It
Like
just
it's not real. It's not real.
whatever it is, it doesn't make any logical or physical sense.
Yeah, it's not like a physical.
Yeah.
It's not like physical matter. You know, because water can't do that. You can't just
Yeah.
suspend a water droplet in the middle of the
Exactly.
air. You know that. Okay.
Now, this fact is a bit random, and I don't exactly know what it has to do with this experience, but he mentioned it, so I'm just going to have it as a side note.
Yeah.
Before the next crazy thing that happens, they hear 3 gunshots. 3
Okay.
random gunshots, and according to witnesses, there were actually 8 witnesses who heard these gunshots. But there should be no one out here that has guns. This is not like a hunting area. This is like where you can fit. It's like a
recreational.
yeah. It is
type
not
of-
a crazy place with guns. So either there's a mass murder out there killing people in the woods.
Or fools are trying to shoot whatever came out of that weird shining water droplet.
That also could be the case. Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the part that would scare the crap out of me. Is
if
the
not
orb
it suspending in the air in front of me.
orb pivots and like faces the car and starts moving towards them. This is where
Nah.
I would die. Well, I was gonna say
Just take me to the back of the barn at that point, bro. I'm good.
yeah,
I'm good.
it's over. Like that's where you
Like
just
you
give
know
up.
the Mist, like the original Stephen King, The Mist, and like
See, but I haven't read it yet. But I
Ah.
know the twist at the end because my dad told me.
okay,
but like,
cool. So yeah, you know how he like murders his whole family, right? Everyone in the car and all
Mhm.
that, and then like at that point, that is the most viable option. I don't see like like a giant like a giant floating
It's just
light
over.
ball pivoting as if it's a person. Like I'm
now,
like it's the equivalent of
yeah,
Like,
where you're just
no.
like, where you can tell whatever it is, it sees
it
you.
knows that you're there.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay.
So I don't know if it goes up exactly, but the way he describes it is that this thing goes like 50 feet above the truck itself. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You described that so casual.
Well,
as if that's not terrifying.
No, well, according to Chris, he's not terrified at all.
Oh, you're right. This man's sitting in the back
Yeah.
seat just
He's just like,
picking
okay.
picking daisies, bro.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
just living.
So I'm going to try and start going a little bit through this a bit quicker because there are a couple things that transpire, but I want you to know about all of them, okay?
All right.
So, where am I at? So the orb is hovering over a spot called, oh, that's right. This part of the story is also weird, dude. Like, I swear, this one's weird, okay? I wasn't expecting this one.
Okay.
The orb, once it's in the air, starts moving again. It just darts off into the distance. And so, for some reason, Chris has balls now, and Chris is like, let's go after it. Let's see what's going on. And everyone else like,
are you crazy?
yeah, but I guess they do it. And so they actually try to...
So yeah,
they're not in this peaceful...
They're crazy too, cool.
Absolutely nuts.
Got it.
But they go after it. The orb ends up in what is over what is called Dead Man's Curve. I would describe the way he talks about it. It's a lot like that place that we went to, you know, with the lights coming through the trees and that really steep turn where the lady died. It kind of feels like that vibe.
Oh, all right. A little creeped out.
The thing that's weird about this exact spot is where Chris's previous wife had died in a car crash. Like,
dude, no.
It's a lot of random facts, but the fact that this all happened to him, and he's written a book, and there are multiple people who can testify for this, that's what I find very strange about this, right? So the orb is over this place that is apparently known as Dead Man's Curve.
And he just happens to have his son with him?
Yes. And this is apparently the first moment where Chris states that whatever it is spoke to him. Now, he said it wasn't like physical word, but
in his head,
but he knew it was talking to him. And what it said was, don't worry anymore. This isn't your fault. In which then Chris states that for years he has blamed himself because he was out with his dad hunting that weekend when his wife had died on this road and he hadn't been there for her. And he has been having this on his conscience for years. And this orb, whatever the hell it is, just spoke to him and told him, put it aside, man. You're good. It is not your fault. This is a weird story, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to keep going. Oh. Chris also describes that this phenomenon in the way that he, over the years after studying the whole thing and talking to other people who have seen orbs and stuff, the way he believes that these people work or whatever these things are is that they are they reach out to you when you have suffered extreme loss. Like severe suffering is what brings them out, whatever they are. Now, fast forward a bit. Once everybody has gotten home, the kid, obviously scared as hell, he goes around, he locks all of the doors, all of the windows, he turns every light on, covers all the shades, like he's doing everything in his power. He is terrified.
I'm not even going home. I'm not even leaving the car. I'm just driving. I'm just driving, dude. The only time I'm stopping is for gas, dude.
Stopping for gas.
No, we're staying constantly moving for the rest of our lives now after that one. That's okay.
Chris ends up doing kind of what you would expect someone to do after seeing everything they just saw. He turns on the TV and he is desperately looking for anything on the news to state like, hey, we're being invaded, or like,
so that he's not crazy.
Yeah, so he's not the only one that but there is
validation.
Nothing. There is nothing that has claimed that there has been anything. It is a normal night on Earth.
Do you really think there would be anything?
I don't, but like I can understand why he was checking, because like what if it was happening all over the world,
especially with that many.
Exactly.
that's
according
wild.
To him, they have seen 3, 6, and then so another like
said like what, 8? So there were like
there were 8. No, but
one.
There were 8 in the river where 3 went down from the 8. The other 3 that he saw on the hill were still at the hill. So like it's
so there's even more.
Yeah. There were a lot of orbs.
Okay.
Eventually, his son meets back up with him, and then Chris suddenly, and his son, they both hear dogs going crazy. Now, he goes into a bit more like description of this, but let's just for time's sake, just know the way his house is built and his neighbors are, there are a lot of dogs. There are just so many, okay? All of these dogs start going insane, start barking, and they're all barking at the same thing. Eventually, the dog that they have in the house is now at the back door, also staring at something outside, barking insane. He says this, but I don't understand why this would be his first thought. They're like, oh, someone must be, now the son didn't think this, but the dad was like, Chris was like, someone must be stealing stuff from the shop, like a shed or something where they keep their stuff in the back. Where I'm like, yeah.
Okay, so pause for a minute.
Yes.
Don't you think it's weird? Well, maybe you don't, because I listen to these stories quite frequently. I love these kind of stories, right? Why, after seeing some things that you will never be able to explain in your life, do you automatically just flip the switch? You're like, definitely someone robbing me.
Yeah, something's wrong here.
Dude, no.
You don't think it's a robber. You do not.
No, there's no way. And I don't know if it has something to do with the paranormal apathy thing.
That's what I was going to say.
I don't know if it's just like, oh, well, no. Like something just flips a switch in your brain saying like, all right, logic, throw that out the window when it comes to like
it
this.
has to be something like that. Because
there's no way. There's no way. Yeah. If this logically happened to you, there's no way the first thing that comes to your head is someone robbing your shed.
Yeah. No, I totally am in agreement with you. Absolutely. I don't understand. Yeah. It's wild. Okay. And it doesn't end there.
Oh.
Because what happens is I believe the son noticed that the dogs he was the first one to realize they're not barking at whatever this shop is that they claim to be. They're barking at the wooded area, the wood forest.
Of course
in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Naturally. Yeah.
So, again, what we were just saying, Chris then goes into the mindset of, well, maybe it's a bear maybe we got to make sure that we get these dogs out there and like handle the problem so that the bear doesn't come and attack our house or whatever. Like, and I'm with you, man. Like, this is ridiculous, right? Like,
so how much? Let me take a wild guess. This man's gonna let his dog out, and he's never gonna see that dog again, is he?
It happened again. No,
Dude,
but
you have something trying to crawl.
Apparently, I think I'm dying. No, so sort of, but no. What he does do is he sends the dog out to go round up whatever this is and
go mosey on up these extraterrestrials.
As he sends the dog out, he takes his son with him, and they both go follow after this dog.
He takes the son.
Here's the thing that's funny: as they're running through the forest, trying to catch up to this dog who is hunting down whatever this thing is.
Yeah.
The son, he's out. And Chris does describe, he doesn't even realize that his son has left him because of whatever adrenaline or feeling in the moment is going on. But the son, he's like, nah, Dad, you're insane. I've seen too many things tonight. I'm going home. And he runs back home and locks the door.
Which leads me to believe that this kid definitely has to be 7th grade to like 10th.
Definitely old enough to remember this, because he still claims this story with his dad.
Well, mainly because, and I'm sure you've heard it too, even though you're not super into the spooky side or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure you have heard people say kids are more sensitive to things because they haven't been bogged down by life yet, saying that, things don't exist. Kids believe anything.
Yeah.
So it's much easier for them, I feel, to pick up on when some bad things are going to go down. I
completely agree with you. Yes.
So I have to feel they're old enough, obviously, to go off on their own, on their own free will to do things. but they also have to be young enough to be seeing some weird things that no one else has seen. No one
And
else saw
it's got to
anything
be too
else
much for
like
them because they
coming out
can't
of
wrap their mind around
yeah.
it. Like it's too much.
So they gotta be like within that age range. They have to be, because I don't think like 16 and up. I feel like that's when kids start to kind
No,
of stop
yeah, I
believing
agree.
in things. You know,
I definitely think he was younger than
it's
16.
got to be
in
like
this.
right before then. Or he's just got to be younger and is
Yeah.
out here just sorry, Dad, but my 8-year-old self is getting out of here. You know,
Mhm.
like so. I don't know.
Okay, so basically, around this moment, Chris keeps running. He's trying to catch up to this dog. He gets to the point where he catches up to it, and then the dog runs off again. He's tired. He's taking a moment. He stands up against a tree. As he turns around, there's something there, and it is, according to him, 4 feet away. And it, just like his son had described, this creature is 3 foot tall. He says he could have touched it. Now, this is where I highly recommend you guys have to go read the book, because I never got into this detail and I don't know what it means and I don't know when this happens, but he claimed that there have been people from NASA who said that it's a really good thing he didn't touch it, because whatever it was, if he had touched it, he would have died. People from NASA have told him this. Right? It's a weird little detail, but that happens after my story. So like, I don't know what part of his life that occurred or like what happened there. So but something to think about, right?
Okay.
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 He also describes this creature as glowing, but glowing like the light of the moon. And it had a triangle on its chest, like the shape of a triangle on his chest. He also said it was glowing, or it was glowing, or it was pitch black. I can't remember. I didn't write it down. But in the triangle, it was also very distinct. I also wrote neck, but it was definitely chest, not his neck. Chris, seeing this and being, once again, now it's all come back.
Now he's back to being terrified.
He's terrified, and he runs back to his house. He gets away from the tree. Well, okay, before he runs back, I will say he actually tried to talk to it because he was so afraid. He was like, I surrender. Like, I give up. You win. I come in peace.
I
like,
would definitely be trying to give it my wallet.
yeah.
But take it, buddy. I don't need it. I don't need it that bad. Like,
before he runs back to the house, it does talk to him. After he says, I surrender, I mean you no harm, please do not hurt me.
In his mind?
According to how I interpreted it.
Okay.
It says, we aren't here to hurt you, we are here to help you. Then the dog comes running back because it sniffed out whatever this thing is, comes back, and the being vanishes from sight. Gone. Totally gone. This is when Chris kind of collects himself. He goes back to the house. He goes inside. He doesn't tell his son what he saw. And this is where I have to just give you the last bit of information because I didn't write it down, but apparently the story ended really soon after this. All that happened after this was that Chris was a smoker at the time, and after everything, he needed to smoke.
I mean, yeah.
So he takes a cigarette. He starts lighting up. He's about to take a hit, and what he's going to do is he's going to open a window to blow out the smoke so he's not getting all the fumes in the house.
I ain't opening nothing after that.
The son begs his dad, please do not open the windows. But he's just like, I'm just going to let out some smoke so that it's not whatever. Opens the window, and across he sees another one, but this one he describes as being very tall, but a being with glowing red eyes. He describes the eyes as sort of like flames? You know, no, more like you know, on the back of a bike, how you see those markers so that you know not to hit them.
Yeah,
he kind of described it similar to that. He said they were actually semi-mechanical in visual style.
Oh my gosh, dude, what?
So yeah, and when this happens, he pretty much, after seeing it again, he takes his son, he gets out of the house, he gets into a truck, they drive to this hay yard. Like, I don't know what you call it.
The hay yard,
But they
bro?
literally just hide out in this haystack until morning comes. And that's sort of the end of Chris's story. Now, before I give you just a couple little bonus details, here's the nuts part. Are you ready?
You're telling me there's something more nuts?
It's a weird nuts.
Okay.
He has never had Crohn's disease ever since this. Ever since that night, he's never had it again. Never taken medication. He's completely healed. And
okay.
And isn't it weird? Like, if you think about everything, right?
We're just trying
They
to
told
help
him,
you,
hey,
bro.
don't worry about your wife. Like, you did this. It wasn't you. You couldn't have helped this. Stop beating yourself up, because he's also had mental issues. Hey, we're not here to hurt you. We're here to help you. Heals seemingly from his Crohn's disease. Wild. All I wanted to say before we really kind of discuss it for a second, and then we'll move on to your story, is the last few bit of details is that ever since this moment, the entire family has witnessed occurrences ever since this moment. Apparently, they see orbs all the time now, and to the
like
point
in the sky,
hovering. They have pictures, and I didn't bring them. Maybe I'll go check out Danny
Jones.
Go check out Danny Jones' podcast if you want to see some of the pictures that Chris had. But there are pictures where there are leftover dead grass in the shape of a circle where apparently it was hovering over. They have a video of a tree that ignited from the inside.
Oh my gosh, dude! I've heard
No
some
rain,
other stories of
no
of
lightning,
stuff like
no
that.
thunder,
Yeah,
and the tree just erupts. And they would put it out like 3 times.
You can tell it's from the inside.
Yes,
you can tell it's like coming from the inside. Yeah.
And so they basically have had these moments where they've noticed these things, and so Danny Jones says, "Well, like, what other things did you see? Was it always orbs?" And they're like, "No. Since then, we've seen a lot of different things. Things like objects on tables just completely flying off and hitting the walls. We have seen
poltergeist activity too.
We have seen shadow creatures walking around, and that's like where I was like, don't tell me, don't tell me you saw shadow creatures, please." And so that's kind of where my story ends. That's everything.
Once Joey sees shadow people or creatures, he's
over. I'm done. I can't do it anymore.
Joey just automatically associates himself. He's like, I was Chris.
I was Chris. Chris was me.
Chris was me. Dude, that's wild. Well, I wanted to show you this guy. I thought it was interesting, like what you had said. We'll put this picture up.
Okay.
On the pod, but this is called the Flatwoods Monster, and this has also been claimed to see. And I had watched a documentary with the 2 original guys who had seen this, and one of them has currently passed since, and it is the only documentary they have ever done where they had talked about that. But what interested me was what you had said towards the end, was it seemed more mechanical in nature. And that is specifically how they described the Flatwoods Monster, was that it was like, it was intelligent.
Does it have any association with like orbs by any chance? Or
well, I think they had seen it come out of the ship.
Oh, dude, that's wild.
Yeah. But in the eyes,
Mm-hmm.
the way you described the eyes, because they had described the eyes is it was almost like fire. Like almost like it was like, steamboats.
Yeah.
Like almost like maybe it was like fire inside, but there were eye holes. So like you could see, the fire through the eye holes or whatever.
Sure.
So I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was kind of weird because
that's really weird. Yeah.
Mechanical in nature and like all this stuff. Like, yeah, it's very.
Dude, it's a weird story though, right? And like,
it's a very weird.
None of it makes sense to me, right? So like the fact that multiple people have seen
it,
it,
the floating above the
ground, hovering that whole
above
thing.
The ground.
He has claimed also that
where did this take place?
North Carolina, I believe. It's north or south.
This is in West Virginia.
Interesting. Yeah, he also has claimed that the orbs, because this was Danny
You almost said
Jones.
Danny DeVito, didn't you?
Danny Jones's podcast talking about he would ask all the good questions like, well, did you hear anything with the orbs? Were they different colors? And apparently they do vary in color. Like they can be blue, they can be white. Usually, the way he described it is that they start white most of the time, and they eventually become red. But they can go through an assortment of colors until they finally get to red, which I don't even know what that means. Like that's weird.
Are they possibly manipulating light
It could be like it's
to? I mean, it's obviously non-ballistic motion. Anything involving UFOs, there's no fire coming out of it to project it anywhere. So, like, what kind that if it's physical, if it's not a spiritual but physical, which I mean, that story makes it it sound very spiritual.
Chris's family has come out saying now that they believe it's very spiritual, and that there's like a kind of a spiritual sense to it all, and that they kind of believe in it.
I believe that there's way more spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
I feel interaction that comes with the UFO and the UAP phenomenon right now. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of people, like, I've changed my opinions over the years, obviously. I mean, obviously no opinion is right because I have no idea. So none of my opinions are right. But
sure.
I'm more inclined to believe that the reason maybe why our government is so hell-bent on keeping things a secret when it comes to UFOs, or just with the stories you have said with all this, I am more inclined to believe that we are so secretive because we don't know what it is. Not that we do,
absolutely.
But that we don't know. And that the spiritual aspect of it would explain way more of all of these stories and way more of all of these connected things having to do with all these different paranormal things.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, they've experienced full poltergeist activity.
Mm-hmm.
Things flying off of shelves, things flying off of tables.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people normally common associate with ghosts.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have already one ghost thing mixed on top of, you know, his wife dying and having what you think is a
so
UFO.
Weird to me, bro.
Telling you that. Then you also have the disembodied voice in your head. Let's not forget that.
And that there was a physical thing that they saw. Like, even if
something physical.
There was a body that was 3 feet tall, or one that was like 6 to 7 feet tall, but they were all described the same as being like glowing almost, and the red eyes. Like, they saw
something there.
Oh my God, dude. Like, it's so crazy. Like, I hope you like the story.
Oh man, no,
I
very much enjoyed this one, and it is actually quite creepy, if I'm being honest, how many similarities there are with your story and mine, especially when it comes to the spiritual aspect to things, because mine, unlike yours, which we will be getting to very shortly, talks about Jesus Christ. So
okay.
So it's gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah, so please, if you guys enjoyed this, I highly recommend, please go get UFO of God and listen to Danny Jones' podcast. Chris Bledsoe, I believe his name is. Crazy story. I'm pretty sure there's a documentary out there. Pretty sure there's a documentary out there that you can find. So please go check it out. I'm sure I butchered a lot of specific details, but
yeah, so you might want to watch the other podcast for more info.
Yeah.
And read the book.
And subscribe to the Woodsmen and follow along. And
America's #1 podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's my story.
Well, your story is pretty wild. Got quite a bit of creepy stuff going on there. Got a lot of spiritual stuff going on there. And yours happened in 2007, right?
Yes.
2007. So we're going to take it back. I'm going to give you a short history lesson. We're going to take it back to the 1950s.
Okay.
we are going to talk about a story that's very near and dear to my heart, which you know because I would not stop talking about it as soon as I got it. But we are going to talk about the story of Orfeo Angelucci.
Yes.
Very insane name.
Yes.
I can't believe I'm able to actually pronounce that name in general. But
yeah.
so that fool, I even brought the book just to show chat. But
do it, bro.
So this is actually a first edition. Oh, let me hold it up so the camera can actually see it. So this is an actual first edition of the book that I'm going to butcher all of the facts in.
Yeah, dude.
Called The Secret of the Saucers. So this is written by Orfeo, and it was honestly written kind of as an afterthought, only simply because.
But this is based off of a story that
account.
Okay,
actual account. And the difference between your story, well, no, it isn't different. I was going to say the difference between yours and his was his took place with a lot of time in between. So he had many encounters, but many encounters with the same, like, I guess, extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
Now yours, obviously they had a lot more encounters after, but I think his main primary encounter happened that one time.
Was what he encountered the first time.
So mine is going to have a lot of jumps. We're going to have a lot of time jumps. So just keep in mind when I do describe this, not all this stuff happened consecutively. So I don't really know all of the years. There could have been years spanned in between some of these, but I just had to get some of these major facts down. So bro was born in 1912. Wild.
Wow.
Died in 93.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
So he was like, I think in his 80s. Yeah. 80s?
Sure.
81. 81. He'd be 81.
I don't math.
Yeah. So he would have been 81. I don't even know if that's actually correct. I did get that fact indeed off of Wikipedia. Because contrary to popular belief, I could not find his actual birth year date in the book. So I just... I got lazy. So anyways, 81, born in New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey. This is where the story takes place. Also, New Jersey, home of the Jersey Devil. Also, some weird stuff.
Mm-hmm. We'll do another episode on the Jersey Devil at some point.
Isn't it funny how everything's connected like that?
Yep.
So New Jersey, pretty creepy place. So we start with, again, first similarity. Orfeo suffered from poor health his whole life.
Oh, really?
Of extreme nervousness and involving his nervous system. Now, part of this meant that he was irrationally afraid of thunderstorms.
Okay.
And it would physically trigger stuff in his body when these thunderstorms would happen. So part of whatever illnesses he had from a child, a lot of it would, like, things would be associated with thunderstorms. So if there were thunderstorms brewing, around him and stuff, he would physically get ill.
Oh, weird.
Very strange. Very strange. Now, some people tried to attribute it to trichinosis. I didn't even write what that was, but it had something to do with, like, it's either like a bacterial type of thing, or it's basically something that is, like, more located in your stomach. So it kind of causes you to, like...
Very similar to Crohn's disease.
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's what people are trying to attribute it to.
Okay.
We don't know that, but from a very early age, and he discusses it in his book, he would be very ill. And he continued to be very ill till the day he died. So that is the one difference. He did not get healed of anything.
Okay.
So we're taking it from there. He only made it to the 9th grade level of education. Due to that, apparently it was so bad that he could not physically be in school doing normal schooling.
He just had to stop.
So he had to drop out by the 9th grade. Now, that didn't mean he wasn't smart. He still continued to, learn, do all of his schooling, and he particularly took to the sciences, which actually is the start of his first encounter of many encounters. So, due to his health and everything, he had heard that California obviously does not have nearly as many thunderstorms as somewhere like Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And he decided that him and his wife, they were going to move from New Jersey to Burbank, California in the 50s. So
makes it a lot easier when I know where everything actually is.
exactly, right? So this happened in the 40s. He had moved.
Okay.
He had moved in the 40s. I don't have the specific date. That's why I was like low key trying to
That's
skim,
fine.
skim through the notes.
I didn't
to see
get the
if I had
specific
it.
date for mine either.
So he moved around in the 40s. Him and his wife, they had relocated. They had gone down there. Now he had relocated and would then work at Lockheed Air Force Base, assembling on the assembly line stuff for like the Boeing 747, all that kind of stuff.
Which is why you were telling me like that you were interested in my guy being
now,
all
the
into the
reason
planes and
why
everything.
that's insane was that's what it was in 1946. Now you said your guy was involved with planes and everything.
Yeah, he said that
II.
he could name every kind of plane there is from World War II to present day for the most part.
Right. Now, do you know what year World War II ended?
Not off the top of my head.
I'm sorry, I called you out on the podcast. Anyone who's like pro, America, they're gonna be really disappointed. But 1945.
I could have guessed that, but I wouldn't have.
So by 1946, 1 year later, that is when Orfeo moves to Burbank, California, to then work at Lockheed, to then work on airplanes that were definitely used in World War II. So another very interesting fact. Now that also
he worked on the planes that my guy knew.
That also again shows you that he knows what an airplane is. He knows what aircraft looks like. He knows what all this stuff is. This isn't some random guy who doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Now, backtracking, before all of this, first encounter stuff happened, 46, he decides to work on his own scientific experiment on his free time. That's what he's doing. That's his thing. And his experiment consisted of him taking weather balloons and sending up different spore molds up into the air.
Spore molds?
So basically, like mold from spores. I believe they're kind of like mushrooms or stuff like that. Like spores, and everything. So he had spent like probably months, like obviously developing all these different ones because he has them at this is the mold at this stage, this is the mold in this stage, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a lot of time to acquire all this stuff, to make a really good scientific theory, right?
Yeah.
So his theory, he wanted to send all these up and then basically track down kind of like the different effects on altitude has on these spores and all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
Balloons set off early.
Uh-oh.
Loses all of that work. Gets sent up, was not ready. So disappointed. His wife was there. He had friends there. Like it was like a big deal to him. This is a really big deal to him. All that work gone.
Just done.
Now I'm sorry. Let me back up. This happened before they moved to Burbank.
Okay.
So just to preface this, so this happened a couple years before, right? They had moved. So this happens. Very bummed. Calls it, nah, not for me. This is dumb. Basically just fully defeated. Now,
as one would be.
as one would be when you lose all of this work. So we jump back. He's at Burbank. He's at Lockheed, right? Now, while he's there, he leaves one night. You leave pretty late when you do jobs like this. He leaves at around, let's see, I think I actually have the time on here. I believe it was a little after midnight. It was during the summer of oh man, dude, I'm slacking. Oh, yeah. 1952. So the spore molds and everything that happened in 46. We're in 52 now.
Okay, so it's been a couple
So
years.
it's been a couple years. He's driving home around midnight. Now, we also have a map that we are going to post that I also found of Burbank in the 50s. So it should be relatively pretty accurate. It also has a Lockheed Air Base on it. So if we can find the exact route he drove, you can theoretically look and see the exact
and find
place
out like where
that
this all went
this
down.
happened.
Yeah.
So he's driving down. Obviously, I don't know all these street names and stuff, so
That's fine.
we're just gonna imagine it. He's driving down, looks up in the sky. He's like, "What is that?" Right? Red glowing oval shaped thing. Yeah, that's why I said this is like actually crazy. Like it's crazy you picked this story because there's so many similarities, right? So he
I'm
sees
all
this.
in now.
He sees this up in the sky, and he's like, "Dude, there's no way." Obviously, the man's driving. It is midnight. So bro is still driving. He's like, doing the casual like, like what is that, right? Notices it's following him, right?
Oh,
so like
no.
obviously he knows like, oh, I've been driving a long time and this is still in my frame of view, which means it has to be going the same way I'm going and has to be keeping speed, right? So he's going through this whole thing. Like, this is pretty wild. And then all of a sudden it's in the middle of the intersection.
What?
It's in the middle of the intersection.
Dude, this is so weird how many parallels there are.
Right? This is actually pretty wild.
Oh my gosh.
So, middle of the intersection. By this point, he had crossed a bridge going over the Los Angeles River, which technically isn't really a river. It's kind of like, our water collection from the rain.
Yeah.
Not really a river. But so he's going over that. He sees this red light. He's going wild. Shifted its trajectory. That's actually what I have in here. Shifted its trajectory.
The orb did?
To go like his way. So it was a noticeable like same thing where it kind of turns.
Same thing where it like pivots.
So it follows him. Like it definitely like follows him, right? By this time, once it's in the intersection, he stops. He's like, well, I guess I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna see what happens. He again, a sense of overwhelming calmness. A sense of not being scared of what is happening right now. Gets out of his car. Walks over to it. I'm talking, he doesn't even stay in the car. He goes over to whatever this thing is. By this time, two green light things kind of come out of the ship. Like kind of like kind of just like comes out of the ship. And the book describes it almost as like kind of like a TV. Like almost like it's like kind of, they just kind of shows up in front of him.
Okay.
And displays these two beings. And they are like human looking. They're like not like scary, like grays looking at you, big old eyes and everything. They're like regular human looking, male and female. And what's the first thing you think they say to him?
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid, Orfeo. We are your friends.
Dude, what?
Yeah.
Bro, aliens are so nice. They're so polite,
that's what
dude.
I'm saying, dude. Like, honestly, anyone who's mad at these fools, they're just trying to tell us to be better people, man.
Yeah, they saved those kids.
Yeah.
They were telling the kids
Saving
in my
the
original
kids.
story that they wanted that the Earth was going to crumble itself with technology.
That
Chris,
want to know something funny?
what?
That's mentioned in this book.
Oh, really?
The whole message of this book is that we are put here on Earth to endure divine suffering, and that we are not on the same level as them because we have messed up, and that we are basically here to kind of live out, I guess, what would be a hell on Earth in a way. But we're going to get into that because that comes later.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm actually just checking to make sure I didn't miss any details I also have on my phone because I got notes everywhere for this.
No worries.
For this story.
I get it.
So they come up on this weird TV thing. Don't be afraid, Orfeo, which funny parallel to Christianity. Let's not forget that. A little odd. They basically tell him that he has been picked for a divine purpose to spread the information that they're going to give him, right? And obviously, he's like, why me? I'm a cripple. I mean, legitimately, I mean, this man has dealt with all this stuff his entire life. He literally had to move locations due to his illness, which, interestingly enough, an overwhelming, compelling urge to pick up and leave to go somewhere else to conveniently place you where you need to be at in order to
what are you getting
encounter this experience.
Oh, yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. But they basically tell him, like, yeah, you have a divine purpose. The reason why we are talking to you is because you have endured physical suffering and that your suffering is greater, which makes it easier to reach out. Right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that maybe physical illness that maybe if you believe in any of this, because
sure.
if you don't believe in any of this, then it's just a cool story. But if you do believe in any of this being any connection at all, most of these people and most of these stories have, for some reason, had a physical illness majority of their lifetime or develop a physical illness in their lifetime. They somehow just happen to be at the right place at the right time to experience all this stuff. If it's happened, it's almost like you're getting pointed out. It's almost like the message is specifically designed for you.
No, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think it's weird how many of these stories have that exact like plot line in it, or like you could call it plot line.
And then you have to ask yourself, well, then are all these people just copying one central story? Or if the message is
or if
true
it actually happened, then what does it mean? What does it mean that all of this is so similar?
And if central truth is the central truth, I mean, you're put here to endure suffering. You're put here to,
dang.
you go through all this stuff, to then achieve a higher level of being, I mean, that's what most of these messages from most of these contactee stories have been, or, so it is very interesting if you do think of how like connected all these things are. Well, we've just seen a lot of connections just in two stories.
Yeah. Two wildly randomly different picked stories. Like they're nothing to do with each other.
No, Joey wouldn't even let me look at his notes until just now. So it's not like we had any prior knowledge of this happening. So going back to that, they tell this man, hey, so because you're a cripple, we're going to talk to you. We're going to let you know that your Earth brothers are messing up, man. This is literally that's the message. You guys you guys are messing up. You guys are fighting and carrying on and destroying yourselves over things that don't matter. You're put here to love each other and care about one another, and this is the message in the book. So it's like it's really crazy, like the amount of parallels there are to just religion in general. I mean, it is a very almost religious message coming from out of world beings, right?
Yeah.
So let's skip ahead, right?
Okay.
Orfeo is very weak. He tells them he's very weak. He's like, man, this is crazy. Mind you, all of this is happening in his head. They're talking to him in his head.
Oh, so it's similar.
Yeah. There's no mouths moving.
Okay.
He is talking to them.
There seems to be a lot of alien encounters that have that fact too.
Yeah.
Specifically, is they don't physically speak to you. They like just let it be known what they need you to know. Yeah. Sort of.
Well, like in Woody Derenberger, when the whole
name.
I know, right? When all the Mothman stuff was happening in Point Pleasant with West Virginia, when he had his alien encounter with an alien who called himself Injured Cold, like literally gave himself a name and everything. First thing he said was like, don't be afraid. You don't have to be afraid. Talk to him with his window up on the outside of his car, with him inside of his car.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I do remember that now. Yeah. Oh, my God.
But there's so many parallels to that. There's so many, like, there's talking
too many
head,
to count. Yeah.
The do not be afraid. It's very strange. Very strange. So they give Orfeo a drink.
A drink?
Yeah. It just appears on his car. They're like, yeah, drink. And he drinks it. He drinks whatever this drink is. And he claims
Okay. See, you were talking how Chris was weird for being like, it's a bear.
Orfeo's on a whole
Orfeo's like, give me that.
But here's the thing. He never once chalks it up to being anything else but aliens. This whole, like, these encounters, once it happens, he's like, that's it.
But would you drink something that you have, in your own mind, convinced yourself to be aliens? Like, would you accept their drink?
I mean, he said it was the greatest thing he's ever had in his entire life. So, probably.
Really?
Yeah, and it said that it, like, restored his, like, vitality, restored, like, you know, he felt good. Like, after drinking it, he felt like, oh man, like, I have a burst of energy. And he even asked them, actually asked them, like, well, if this can do this for me, like, can you just heal me? And they tell him no. Straight up. But the way they tell him is interesting. The way they tell him is interesting.
So what did they say?
Because they are not allowed to interfere. That is interesting. That they are allowed to help, but are not allowed to interfere, like, as far as a permanent solution, if that would make sense. Which is weird, not even on a religious level or anything, but, like, think about the multiverse as far as, like, comics and
Did
Marvel.
I miss a step? How do we get to multiverse?
Think of the Watchers. It's the same concept. The same like I'm ever present and I am ever seen of everything, but I am not allowed to physically get involved. You know? And I find that a very interesting detail. Mind you, this was written in the 50s. This book came out in like 55.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously those concepts weren't really like big things. So where would you get that from? As someone who's not a writer,
or you would have had to experience whatever it was.
Yeah, like you would have to have had some prior knowledge to something of that nature, which I just find very interesting. So they tell him all this. They're about to leave him. But before they leave him, they say, don't worry, Orfeo. Like, we'll see you again.
What?
Yeah. So this will not be the first. This is the first of many encounters.
Okay.
This is not one and done. So they leave. They just
dip.
Just do womp. And just
womp.
Yeah, they just take off, dude. They just take off. So Orfeo, as one would be, is like, what just happened? What is happening?
Questioning
right?
reality, questioning everything.
Right? But by this point, he is fully sold. He is
just
like,
convinced that it's extraterrestrial life.
It. Like, he's like, this is it. And I've been put here to put this message out there that, you know, we need to get our stuff together. You know, we need to get our acts together. We need to start focusing on loving each other, all this stuff. Goes back home, tells his wife, Mabel. That's her name, Mabel. And she's like, oh, that's crazy. But, you know, one thing. Here's the thing, though. She's a real one. She never once, as far as like in his book, never once made him feel crazy. Like she was like, you know, like, are you sure? You know? But after, you know, more than one encounter, because there were many, she's like, I mean, I guess this is happening. Now she had told him many times she wants him to stop talking about it, but he doesn't. But other than that, she never once like claims any like, nah, this dude's too crazy for me. I gotta go, you know, and dips. So, by this point in time, a few weeks, possibly months pass. He has another encounter, right?
Okay.
By this time, again, it's nighttime. He's driving. He drives under a bridge, and he gets this strange urge to stop. Nothing said.
Oh no.
He just gets a strange urge to stop. So he does. He stops. He gets out of the car. He walks under this bridge and sees what is described as a igloo-shaped thing. Yeah. Like igloo-shaped, yeah.
Okay.
So like a dome, like I guess like a dome, and I would assume a way to get in. That's just what I assume. There's no pictures.
Okay.
and he gets in. He goes.
He just walks
He
into
he
it.
goes inside. Yeah.
Ooh.
He goes inside and
What did you call it? Spiritual apathy?
you're just not
Supernatural apathy.
like paranormal
Empathy?
apathy. Paranormal apathy. Yeah.
Is it apathy?
Yeah.
Weird
Yeah.
word.
So I don't know. Yeah, so you guys so he gets in this like igloo thing and
Okay.
there are there's beans in there, right?
Oh, they're just waiting for him.
Yeah, and they're like human looking, like apparently. They're not like weird, scary looking beans. But they
Do they look
basically
human? Do they look?
No, yeah, they're like human. They're like human looking.
But
Yeah,
they're not
male and female.
But not human.
They're not human. Well, at least that I know of.
Okay.
They sit him down and he describes all these textures, describes like how it's one of those, your mom's purse when you're young and she tells you to go in there and grab something and it's just never ending. Like, it's like, how is there so much purse when there's like such a small purse?
Yeah.
So apparently he describes it like that. It's like one of those, you go in it and the room just does not match what he walked into. Like, it just does not make any sense, right?
Okay.
And I don't know at what point he realizes this, because he's in this ship for a while talking to these beings. He realizes he's no longer on Earth. He realizes that they have now taken him up in space. He is in space.
What?
In this craft.
Dog. Oh.
Yeah.
That's where I tap out. I mean, if not before then, I'm like, no. This is it. I'm going to heaven.
So wild. They take him in this craft.
What happens? So he remembers this whole experience?
They again describe, yeah. Now, in the book, obviously, he recalls it different. He goes into like, well, when I woke up, I kind of recalled like, oh my gosh, this wasn't a dream. This is real. Like all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, like, book speak, I guess, to go through all this stuff. They basically kind of still give him the overarching message of like, this is like your purpose. This is why we're here. This is why, all this stuff, right? They basically tell him like, yeah, you like once lived among us. There were a lot of, apparently all your fellow brothers and sisters on Earth apparently once all lived on the same planet together with us, and it basically becomes very soul-based and becomes they were transferred it down to a different Earth.
Dude, this would be so much to like process.
It's a lot. Yeah, tell me about it, dude. You know how much notes I have on this crazy story? So they basically tell him that they're all from like a whole other world. Like,
okay.
And all the people who are on Earth basically messed up on that world. They are the bad people. Everyone who ever is and ever was on Earth now, we're bad. We're just bad people in this past life, apparently, like that they are describing to Orfeo when they're like, hey, this is the deal, right?
Yeah.
this is what's going on, right? And that world was destroyed, apparently. It was,
Oh, the world that they claim to originally have held.
Yes,
all the bad people.
All those
everyone.
Everyone, yeah. But the bad, all these bad people. Basically, what we're at right now with all the crazy war, with all this crazy, stuff going on right now, basically happened on that world, and it destroyed itself.
Oh.
That's basically the whole.
I mean, I don't know where you're going with this, but that would be such an interesting case for why most alien encounters talk about like you're ruining yourself. Like
that's that's the whole point,
dude. That's so interesting. Like, because I've always because originally when I did my not to interrupt, but like when I originally looked up that story about those children at the school, and then like the aliens went into this whole thing about how technology is ruining you and you all hate each other and all this stuff. I was like, why would aliens care? Like if we are somewhat of pawns to them, or most people think that that's what we are to aliens, why would they care to tell us how to fix our problems? That would be a very interesting, like,
Yeah.
reasoning for why they do care, or why that, like, even is a thing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's very interesting. So they go into this whole thing,
Mhm.
and they basically have told him the reason why you have been put on Earth for divine suffering is basically to learn from your past mistakes, and that your it's not really about your physical body, that your kind of soul.
And by past mistakes, you mean like what they did on the original place they came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of where this message is going, right? So by this point, I'm not, because there's a lot, obviously.
Sure,
It's
sure.
like it's a whole book worth.
Yeah.
So by this point, Orfeo is like distraught, like grief stricken, like on the ground crying, like on his knees, because
It's just too much for him
he realizes, again, like I told you from the beginning, it's like, I'm sold that this is,
Yeah,
happening,
he
right?
believed it from
You
day
know,
one.
He's not crying out of like denial. He is crying out of like, I can't believe
This is the
that
message.
our brothers could have.
Oh, so he like takes it more like,
I'm talking like
personally,
a personal, like I can't believe we did this when we could be this. Like he made it as a like, look at these people, like look at these like beings, and this could be
like
us.
what have we become?
This
like,
is and it's like a divine sorrow for his
Oh.
fellow brothers, not a It's weird, dude.
dude, I wish I could believe in something that wholeheartedly. Like,
yeah,
just to like know for a fact, like for sure.
like heartbreaking,
Dude,
for
that's
for all
insane.
these people. And then but that's what I mean. It just leads you to like ask yourself, like, dang, dude, like to be that grief stricken, like I don't think that could be fake, right? Like, how could you be that, like...
I mean, it
I
depends.
mean, you can fake anything.
You can argue any story.
Yeah.
You can argue my story. You can argue any of these. But,
Yeah.
like, no, I see where you're coming from.
It's just crazy when you think about it. So, going from there, moving on, right? They take him back down. He comes back to Earth severely depressed. I mean, as anyone would be. By this point, I'd be pretty depressed, too. Now... I will say the one cool thing about this book. I will only go into a few more points because, again, there are a lot of things to cover. I'm only going to cover the main things because a lot of encounters happen.
Maybe we'll have an Aliens part 2.
Maybe. So, very grief-stricken. The one cool thing about him, though, he names real people. He does not. He does not beat around the bush as far as like the people he told things, people who experienced things with him. He names them. He names them in the book. Now I say that to get to my next point. So he gets to Lockheed, right? Because that's where he works. We've mentioned that quite a bit of times.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there. All these people at this point, because he's going out with this story. He's telling a lot of people all of this stuff. So he's looking like a little loon, right? You're kind of like...
like a little loon.
Dude's a little weird, right? But, we like Orfeo, right? He's cool. He's chill. So, we're just going to do some light ribbon, right? They're just going to bust his chops, so to speak, right? And these people be busting his chops quite a bit. And he's, I'd be pretty sad at this point because, you've witnessed some incredible things and no one's going to listen to you, as these things normally happen. Until they're outside at Lockheed. And I think over 8 people witnessed a red glowing thing in the sky.
Oh.
And he lists their names, first and last name, who these people are that were there.
Okay.
Now you can look up all these people. They're real people. These are not fake people. This is not a... So... If you were around in 1955, you could have called these people up at their homes and asked them, hey, did you see this? And they would have either given you the answer, yes or no. But I'm pretty sure if they agreed for their names to be in a book, they obviously had to see something.
Okay.
So then that happens, right? The craziest thing to have happened to Orfeo, at least to me, which again, we'll bring it back into... to your story. He not only has a missing time experience that happens while at Lockheed, it lasts for 7 days.
7 days?
7 days.
Dude was gone for a week.
But his body was still there.
What do you mean by that?
So, in 7 days, he claims that he was no longer here on this earth, no longer even in his body.
This is not the igloo experience. This is what happened.
Whole other experience.
Okay.
That's why this whole story is very confusing, because a lot of the setups do sound quite similar, right?
No, that's fine.
So, bro's in a whole other body.
In another body? What do you mean another body?
In another body.
So, okay, where you're about to go place. Is you're saying wherever he was during the 7 days.
It was as if his like mind or consciousness was taken and transferred into something else. Oh. That he left his body with his body still being there. It's almost like, I guess, astral projection.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
In a way. So he wakes up on a whole other world, right? A whole other planet, or at least to him, a planet. Mm-hmm. Says it's beautiful. Says there's like all these crazy, beautiful colors in the sky. It's kind of like, it's very sci-fi, like, you know, movie-ish, right? He wakes up in this room, doesn't know where he's at. Like, where am I? You know, someone comes in. It's one of the two people there. I think her name is Aurora. I think so. There's Neptune.
So they had names.
Yeah, they had names. So there's Aurora and there's Neptune.
Okay.
Aurora's the girl. Neptune's the guy, right? She checks him, all this stuff, make sure he's good. He wants to go out, explore, all this stuff. They basically sit him down. They break all this crazy news to him. They're like, hey, okay, so where we're at.
If you thought it was bad before.
Yeah, if you thought it was bad before. So they're on their home planet, right? This is what they're telling him. We're currently on our home planet, which is the destroyed planet. It is just a asteroid broken off of that planet. So they're like kind of floating in space on this like big old rock that they are now, I guess, calling their home. Still beautiful, by the way. So it's like, dang, that's interesting. Like, as far as plants and everything, I don't really know how that goes. But they are on this place. He is currently in a body that they claim you should know very well. I guess alluding to the fact that this may have been him in a past or other life. And that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, at this point, this is where they also bring up the religion part. This is where, like, this is the part where I was like, this is very crazy, right? Especially us being Christians, because they directly talk about Jesus Christ. So they didn't sit him down after all this stuff, because again, a lot of stuff happens. He walks around, sees this world. It's like, man, it's beautiful. Realizes again how very small he is, and how terrible of people we are, because we could have had this life, and this is only a small, destroyed part of what we could have had, right? So he's going in this whole existential crisis thing.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, buddy, we know with everything we've showed you that you want to know about Jesus Christ, or like the whole deal with Jesus Christ. Now, yeah, and that's how they like put it in the book. Like, we know you gotta have a question about it, like type of thing, right? So they
okay.
Yeah. So as far now, again, if you believe any of this is happening, like if this actually happened, they apparently also like, yeah, Jesus is real. He's a real person. All this stuff. He is the son of the sun. So the son, S-O-N, of the S-U-N.
Yeah.
The son of the sun. And that, yeah, he was preaching, real truth, and that, it's all about loving each other and acceptance, and, we're put on this earth to love, not hate, and, all this kind of.
I mean, I hate to just like go into the questions,
but like,
so are they claiming that he is like the Messiah, or are they claiming
So
that there is a higher power?
No, that's the thing. Yeah, that's where it gets like weird because you get on track. You're like, okay, I can get on board. I can get on board. I can get on board. And then he dies. And then he does raise from the dead. But they're claiming that he is a fellow space brother. That is what they.
Oh, he's one of them space
like,
dogs.
That's what they're like. Yeah, that he is something.
Okay.
Now that he is a higher being, that he is the son of God, but like it's not the same, I guess.
But
way
what we
you would think of it,
comprehend of it all,
it's a whole different way of thinking or whatever. But when he went up to the heavens, he went up to the heavens, like picked up and
like he just
brought into the heavens, like spaceship,
brought back to like what? Oh,
like
just Jesus was in a flying saucer,
back to the heavens. Well, I don't know. I mean, we get the tractor beam thing all the time with all the, think of that. I mean, wouldn't that technically be a
Jesus just went up?
Well, I mean, like I know how weird that sounds, but I mean, as far as like if you're gonna think of it. If you're going to think of it as alien logic,
it's just funny to think of like the disciples that day being like,
yeah, what is happening? I mean,
do
just
y'all
because
see
he was
that
getting,
second son?
Just because he was getting taken up doesn't mean they saw it though.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, so apparently that's a thing, but they call the race of people. See, that's why I've been having a hard time. Been trying not to say the name because I wanted to lead up to this point. The race of people are called the Luciferians.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So it's almost like all one big metaphorical.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So that's why it was hard for me to try and figure
out. No,
yeah. But yeah, so they tie it in that way where, yeah, we were sent to Earth to pay for our atonement.
Oh.
For our, yeah.
Dude, that's weird. That's so weird. And they're just...
And then
and why are they telling
us? And it's up to us to like...
Alfonso or whatever his name is.
Orfeo. That he has just been chosen, that they saw him. Oh! I didn't even tie it all back in, didn't I? Did I say the whole reason the spore thing was important? They had met him before. They were there when he sent up the balloons in New Jersey.
Oh.
And the reason why that was important, I brushed over that. The reason why that was important was because Mabel, his wife, and all of his friends there also saw something up in the sky, but he never put together that was anything UFO related because nothing happened
he had no
while
reason.
He was there. It was just something weird that was in the sky when the weather balloons went up and then it went away. But they never once like that was a UFO. That was not their thing. So when they had met him the first time, they said, like, do not be afraid, Orfeo. We're friends. We've met before. And then that's, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
So I totally skipped over that. But
that's cool.
That's why that was important too.
Okay.
Yeah. So he goes through this whole thing. I'll cover one more thing. I guess he gets put back down in his own body. I don't know.
After 7 days.
And again, in the book, he has the witnesses. He went and talked to people. He's like, where was I? All this stuff. They're like, you're here the whole time. You were here. You worked. You left. You asked Mabel. Yeah, you came home. You went to bed. You acted strange, though. Like not really yourself. Not really, like, kind of just...
What?
Kind of picking up, doing whatever, and then...
Like his body was just doing...
Kind of like on autopilot, in a way. Like...
Weird. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So, one of his last encounters, there are two that happen. The last one isn't really that big, so I'm going to skim over that. But the last big encounter was after all of this, very, again, in a depressive state. especially after getting that message.
Mm-hmm.
He's walking. He's walking at night, taking an evening stroll, I guess. Mabel worked at the drive-in, the Los Feliz drive-in. Back then, it's no longer a drive-in down there.
Okay.
But she worked there, so he would often like walk, there, help her and all that stuff. Walk back when he was done with his shifts, all that kind of stuff. He was walking, and he runs into the same male Neptune, the same male that was on the ship, on the street, like on the street,
just like out of nowhere,
physical form person on the street, and comes up to him and starts talking to him like, Orfeo, like, hey, like all this stuff.
Hey,
and
man.
apparently they have a whole like night, I guess, where they're
just drinking brewskis and talking about.
They walk, they go to a little, I guess, park of grass or whatever. There's water, like a little lake,
as opposed to a park of sand.
And they're sitting there talking, and they're just talking about life and like, dude, like, I can't believe that this is like really happening. You know, he's kind of in shock, obviously, because all this crazy stuff is happening to him.
Sure, yeah.
He's like, I don't even know what to call you. That's also the crazy thing too, because he basically came up with the name Neptune. I guess
Orfeo did?
Yeah, I guess the being Neptune told him like, well, what name feels right to you? It might be a name that you have known before, like in your past, like whatever.
Interesting.
And he refers to him as Neptune. Yeah. And so that's like a whole thing. He gives him this whole speech about like, this is gonna be the last time we probably, have contact with you, and it's up to you to finally, share it. Like share this whole story and, try and get your Earth brothers back on track and all this stuff. And then after a while, he's like, I'm really thirsty. And Orfeo runs to like a liquor store and buys like, I think he bought like an orange soda or something. And he goes back to the place and he's gone. And that's
like
that's his encounter with him.
That's the last time he saw Neptune?
The last encounter, he basically ran into him, Neptune, again, but in like full like regulars 50 attire, like jacket, hat,
what
type of thing. Yeah, like kind of like Mad Men, like Don Draper, very like
I know the vibe,
business kind. So Orfeo was at a train station picking up family, and Neptune walks past him, but like apparently talking to him in his mind was like, don't make a big deal of it. Like, don't like make any, basically don't alert people that you know who I am, type of thing. Yeah. And that was like one of the last encounters.
See, that's like one of the weirdest encounters that happened in this, especially that happening after all the other ones.
Yeah. Right. So my story, obviously, mine's not very linear like yours, because yours is one specific event. Mine is a lot of events.
Sure, no, but
I mean, the whole thing entails a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, they apparently tell him like there's more than just us as far as like aliens.
Yeah, no, my story sort of goes like you said, linear, and it sort of just gives you.
And again, I got mine out of a book, so it's also a lot different too. But
yours kind of connects a lot of interesting dots that not a lot of people can connect when they tell their alien story. I almost like ghost stories, but alien stories.
Maybe they're all connected. Who knows?
Who knows? No, that's so cool. That's a great story. I'm honestly really intrigued, mostly about that last encounter. The fact that he was like
you can't. Yeah, I don't know. It's
so strange.
It's been a while since I've been in that chapter, so I don't really remember exactly what the whole extent was, but it was very brief. It was a very like, don't tell them.
Interesting.
Don't draw any attention to me. Don't.
That's weird though, because
like
why do you think the whole, like, they would take the time, bring him into an extraterrestrial body, have him walk around on this planet that supposedly he once knew.
Yeah.
have him go through all this thing and tell him, hey, your purpose is to go and spread the news that things are going bad. But then when you encounter him again, just in a
maybe because there's people around.
Yeah, but why not make yourself known to them? Why not tell everyone the story?
Maybe that's part of the rules. Maybe there is a set of rules or guidelines that you have to go by. I mean, it's the same with us. We have a set of rules, standards, guidelines that we live by. Maybe there are
and maybe he was on vacation. Maybe Neptune was just chilling. He was like,
maybe bro's like, hey, bro, when I'm visiting Earth, sorry, not a lot of people can know. It's just private life, man. Private life. Maybe just like, doesn't want no paparazzi. I don't know. But very interesting.
Very interesting. Absolutely.
I mean, the thing that interests me the most, and especially being kids who like grew up in church, all that kind of stuff, it's so metaphorically and it's just metaphorically religious. It's such a religious
It's weird how many
story
dots they connect to. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it just makes you wonder, like, where do you, I guess, come up with it? I'm not
You
one
mean
to
if
say,
it's fake?
Yeah.
Where do you come up with
it? I'm not one to say, like, oh yeah, the story's true. I have no idea. I mean, I think something happened. I don't know.
For all we know,
I don't know what extent something happened, but something definitely had to have happened because it doesn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Even if it's just the first encounter happened and he made up the rest, a first encounter happened. Something had to have happened because there's no way someone just came up with that on the dome. At least to me.
No,
I don't know
I
how
can
you
agree.
would come up with it on the and like if it is just him being because he makes it very clear in the book, I'm not a writer. And this is his first book. This is like the first book that was ever published by him. So you can back that up. He's not a writer. But like, if he is, man, good for him for writing himself as his own main character, using real names of people, he made himself the star of his own book. If it's fake. And if it's not,
if it's real,
then that's even scarier. Like,
it's terrifying.
So I don't know, dude. I don't know what to make of it, but I just found it so very creepy.
I find it very strange how many things connect between both stories. That's what's weird.
For it being so, like, not planned out.
Not planned out, completely different people, completely different time eras. That's like a whole another thing, like we're talking about a dude in the 50s?
Yeah.
And
2007.
And Chris happened in 2007. It's like, but all these similarities still hold up. These beings that want to tell us, hey, you got to fix some stuff, or hey, we're not here to hurt you. We want to help you. And
yeah. And,
and Jesus lives. Praise the Lord.
Yeah, amen, dude. I mean, if we're going to go into just the similarities, like with the Bible and some of these stories, I mean, there are quite a bit of similar things. When you take your perspective off of like the church perspective and you put it on just a non-biased perspective, like let's just compare and contrast these stories. I mean, Paul on the road to Damascus, think about what happened. A bright light shone above him with a disembodied voice telling him what the message is. Why are you persecuting my people? Like, you should be loving, like all these people. Also, and I mean, we didn't cover it in our stories, but there are other stories that I've read, and even with the Mothman prophecies with Woodrow Derenberger. After that happened, he had what was called acute conjunctivitis, which was essentially blinding him for like 3 days. It's the equivalent to getting a welder's burn on your eyes.
Oh.
Now, Paul, on the road to Damascus, was blinded for 3 days. So, it's just like, and I'm not saying obviously, oh, it's aliens. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, like, when you just take the perspective of like, we'll just compare and contrast all these weird things happening, like, I mean, weird stuff was happening back then just as much as it is now, Yeah. And I think we're just trying to maybe classify things as certain things when it's like, we just don't know what it is. We don't know what any of it is, man.
No, that's like the biggest thing.
We don't know what anything is. And for us to, I guess, be naive enough to act like we know the answers to everything. We don't, bro.
No.
Obviously, something's happening. There's obviously something going on. There's obviously something, alien-wise going on. There's obviously something ghost-wise going on. There's obviously, there's too many stories for it all to be fake.
No, I agree.
So I think
we've talked about that many times on this podcast, how there's too many to go, like there's too many to count. There's too many that it's like, well, maybe it's not aliens, but it's something. Yeah. It's definitely something.
There's something there.
There's something going on.
And I just think it's it's really cool, I think, to be able to analyze things without like the judgment part, being able to analyze things from any perspective without the judgment, because at the end of the day, I don't care what anyone believes in. I don't care, if anyone, if you're Christian.
You mean you don't
or not,
care?
I don't care
like
about,
if you believe.
As far as like, well, what you believe in, you could believe in some, out of pocket stuff. That's different. But I guess as far as like a religion wise, I think none of us know anything.
Oh yeah, I've had that stance for years. No one knows the truth for sure.
I think the only thing we know for sure is that we could strive every day to be better people. And I think even if the message, even if the whole book was just a factitious book, is that how you say that? A fictitious book? Yeah, that word. Just trying to use big words. But, even if the book was fake, the whole thing, I mean, the underlining message is a pretty good one. Like, hey, why don't we stop destroying ourselves and start focusing on
making the
caring
world
about
a better
each
place.
other, Yeah. So, I mean, regardless of what you believe in, I think that's the universal rule that we can all probably strive to go by.
And we've been talking about this since episode 1. The world needs more love, less hate.
What are you doing by not listening to the podcast?
Please, it's everywhere now.
The topics are hitting harder than
so
ever.
Much better.
Like, come on, man. What are you doing? I know, Spotify,
Apple Music,
Podcast, man, everything. What are you doing?
Google Podcasts,
iHeartRadio,
Amazon Music. Like,
I don't know anymore.
That's all I know too.
That's about it. The only main ones is Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So
that's the main ones.
That's all we care about. Well, that's all I got, man.
No, that was a good episode. I had fun. This was fun.
This is a good one. This one ran a little long, but sometimes you got to have a longer episode to produce the quality content,
Absolutely.
So,
I completely agree.
This is a podcast of many monumentous things. First episode with a black magic.
Yes, dog. Yes, I'm so happy.
Second episode with good audio, with loud audio.
Yep.
It's only getting better from you guys.
First episode, technically, with the buzzing fixed.
That is facts.
Even though you guys probably couldn't tell, but like
we could tell.
We could tell.
Especially when it's in your ears for like a solid 2 hours every episode. Like, you can tell.
So you guys, make sure to follow us on our socials. Woodsman, you can find us on Woodsman Pod on Instagram, The Woodsman Pod on TikTok, The Woodsman Podcast on Gmail. If you want to send us any questions,
comments, concerns, hate mail, fan mail.
Yeah.
We should really set up a P.O. box too. I would love
a P.O. box.
You want people to send us gifts? Someone to just send me. Can you just send me anything alien or Mothman?
I really need new shoes.
Bigfoot related.
I can't pay for my new shoes this week because I have to pay loans. So if you guys wanted to, I don't know where you're gonna send it, but I need new shoes.
Some new boots.
Yeah.
Some boots in general.
Some boots.
We need to get this man a real pair of shoes so his shoes aren't disintegrating.
They're literally
in the
falling
rain.
apart. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, it's been a good time, man. It's been a good time.
Been fun.
It's been a good time with you, chat. So, without further ado, we're your hosts, Brent Murphy.
And Joey Rucker.
Later, Gators.
The Woodsman Podcast is co-produced by Brent Murphy and Joey Rucker.
Engineered by Brent Murphy and edited by Joey Rucker.
Additional editing by Brent Murphy and blood, sweat, and tears by the both of us.
Any content by the Woodsman Podcast may not be used without our permission.